It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we appear with vodcasting megastars like it ain't no thing. My name is Mark, and joining me, all dolled up and looking so fine, is my beer mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Also joining us is YouTube star, beer aficionado, and all-round person, Rob Derbyshire from Hopzine. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing? It's a
Fine.
great pleasure to be in such esteemed company.
It's great
to have
you
on, Rob.
In the Beer O'Clock Show studio. Don't mind the mess. We've got a very interesting looking beer this week. We've got Bad Kitty from Brass Castle, which is a 5.5% ABV vanilla porter. I've never even heard of this beer before, so this is going to be very interesting indeed, but we'll get our comments and all that bit in a little while. Steve, let's start with you, mate. What have you been up to lately, beer-wise?
What have I been up to? I've been digging into the Beer 52 box that we were sent. Shameless plug there for the competitions that we're running at the moment. But I thought I'd better have a go at the beers that were in the box to see what some of them are like. And there were two in there that really stuck out as being the ones that I wanted to try straight away. So there was a toasted porter by Einstock, which was probably one of the best porters I've ever tasted. Actually, it was like a caramel latte. It just finished so sweet. It was a really, really stunning beer. So I'd recommend, mate, when you do eventually get your box from me, give that one a go first.
Okay.
And then the other one that I tried was the one that I mentioned. I think I mentioned this one last week. This is the I can't remember what it's called now. The official German name for it, but it's sour.
The one you picked up.
Yeah, sour smoked wheat beer. Abraxas, which was
disgusting.
interesting to say the least. It was like drinking a sour smoked wheat beer. Some interesting flavours going on.
That's all,
there.
folks. Thank you very much. That's the in-depth
Yeah.
commentary we expect.
Was that the Freigeist?
Yes, that's the one.
Very nice. Very peculiar.
Yeah, it's certainly the strangest set of flavours that I've ever had in a glass together. I must say, wasn't unpleasant, very drinkable, and nice to try something different. But that's the great thing about this box that we've got at the moment. It's got some really a real good range of beers in there to try, and some styles that I've not had before. So I'm looking forward to trying the rest.
Cool. What about you, Rob? What have you had in the last week or so that would be of interest?
Well, last week, as we record this, Northern Monk opened their refectory, which is essentially their kind of tap room at the brewery, which is in the Holbeck area of Leeds. They opened last Friday. I went on Thursday, as any self-respecting beer blogger, blagged the way into a preview. And then I visited again on Saturday. I mean, they're doing some great stuff. The dark beers are really shining, especially the Dark Archers Black IPA. That's great. But then a new one, what they had on at the brewery when I visited was, I think it's called Northern Star, which is a mocha porter, which was just wonderful. Absolutely ridiculous amounts of coffee in it, and but in using a local coffee roaster as well called Northern Star. So that was fantastic. And if I'm to don my elaborately decorated craft wanker hat, I'd say Dudu Ciel Morality, which is a collaboration. This is taking it a whole new level. So it's a small Quebec-based brew pub, and it's a collaboration with The Alchemist, who are well known for Heady Topper, which is a very highly regarded American IPA. But yeah, I got it online from Brewdog. IPA, absolutely incredible. One of the best IPAs I've had in quite some time. It's safe. And I picked some more actually up when I was in London at Bulldog, my first ever visit to Bulldog. But yeah, I'm Steve, that'll be right up your street.
I'm sitting here scribbling notes as we speak, mate, to make sure that one goes on the list of beers that needs to be drunk before the end of the year.
Very good. Well, the only beer I've had in the last week since we last recorded was the one we did pretty much straight after our last recording with Ian from 11 p.m. Somewhere, which was the Buried at Sea by Galway Bay, which is really nice. It's a really nice chocolate porter, I thought, or chocolate stout, or whatever the hell it was. It was late.
It was chocolate milk stout, mate.
Yeah, that's it. It was nice though. I can't tell the difference between stout and porters. I'm sure everyone realizes this already.
I think there is no difference apparently. I mean, I think it was Martin Carnell wrote something quite recently, just saying stouts and porters, it doesn't really exist anymore. So, I think Steve actually got a bit of a rant on 11 p.m. Somewhere about the idea of like porters and stouts. But yeah, essentially nowadays they don't really exist. The difference.
I think was that not the thing that I got all ranty about on the 11 p.m. Somewhere cast over ports and stouters possibly. So yeah.
I need to re-listen back to that because even though I edited it afterwards, I can't remember what your rant was about. So I need to re-listen.
I've not had a chance to listen to it yet, but I will be listening to it because obviously there are exclusive announcements in there about what we're doing on season 6, and we said this last week. We're not going to tell the people that listen to this podcast what those announcements are. If you want to hear them, you need to listen to episode 41 of 11 p.m. Somewhere. Listen to Mark and I taking over Ian's podcast, reviewing Galway Bay Buried at Sea, and making some exclusive announcements about season 6, which is coming in the new year.
Indeed. And I had that down as your first news item. So do you want the pips to get onto your second one, mate?
Yeah, I was trying to be seamless there, mate. But seeing as you pulled me on it, you may as well now split it up with the pips as well.
Beep, 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 beep.
Okay, so just continuing on a theme of because it seems to be the Porter and Stout o'clock show tonight. Just wanted to mention that we are in the middle of doing the 2 polls of porters and stouts. We recently finished the first one, which was porters and stouts at 7.4% and under, which was won by the Colonel India Exports Stout. And we're about to launch the next poll, which is porters and stouts 7.5% and above. Which by the time you hear this podcast, that poll will probably be live. So make sure you cast your votes if you want your favourite beer to win that one. And then another little bit of news this week. Craft Beer Co. have launched their homebrew competition 2015. So this was a competition that Andy Parker won last year. So that's now been launched for next year. Full details, craftbeerco.com. And then just because we haven't had any Brewdog news for at least a week, here's this week's Brewdog news. They've got another new beer out, Brewdog versus Weinstefan, which is the India Pale Weizen. So it's a mix-up of 2 styles. Apparently aromas and flavours of banana and clove, distinctive haziness, and then layered on top of that is a shit ton of US citrus hops. So very quick news this week, but
I swear sometimes
that's it.
The Brewdog brewers just trip over cases of beer that they forgot they brewed. They just pile out the new beers constantly. It's amazing. It's like a Wonka factory of beer.
It is.
Is that an imperial or a metric shit ton?
That would be a metric shit ton, I think.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to make sure we've got the measurements right on
Yeah.
here. It's just one below a fuck ton, which I chose not to use tonight.
Right, let's get on to this week's beer, which, as I said, is Bad Kitty from Browers Castle, Vanilla Porter. Yeah, say no more. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. This is one we've had slated to do for quite a while, actually. And if you do stay tuned right until the end of the show, there's an interview with Phil and Ian from Brass Castle Brewery talking all about this beer and a little bit more about the brewery as well.
Nice and bubbly coming out.
Well, that's got an aroma of it around it that reminds me of Christmas. I don't know why, but it's the sort of aroma. You know when you crack open the Christmas chocolate box, and you get this sudden aroma of chocolate that's been festering in a plastic tub for a year, but then there's just mixed a little bit with what are those? My dad used to eat loads of them on Christmas Day. Liqueurs, chocolate liqueurs.
Yeah.
It's got an aroma of that to it.
I was going to say those chocolate liqueurs that your nana wouldn't share with you.
Yeah. That's, I don't know why, but this is just Christmas in a glass for me.
I didn't
Just
get much
bringing
head
back
on
so
mine,
many memories.
but you seem to have had it. You seem to both have a little bit on yours.
I've got it in my.
It's because we've got the fancy glasses, that's why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've
We've
just got a bog standard pint glass because I'm
just some old baked beans.
Yeah. I'm surprised you're not just doing it from the bottle, mate.
Who, me?
Yeah, for me,
Rob.
the aroma. I mean,
No, you.
fresh red apples, but loads of vanilla. I mean, it is a vanilla porter. Often, a lot of brewers say you've got to be careful with vanilla because it drops out. I mean, as far as I'm aware, my bottle isn't uber fresh. It's got the old branding on it, and from all accounts, I don't think they've bottled the beer for quite a while. So, but the vanilla is there still quite prominently.
I'm not getting much vanilla, but then
I completely agree with you.
I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm not picking much up at all. Anyway, shall we get into this, guys?
Yeah.
I'm thirsty.
Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, the smell's just really, really. I'm enjoying the smell. I'm just hoping it follows through into the flavour. Let's give this a go.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
It does as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
That really takes the sharpness off.
It's like
off
Christmas in a
porter,
glass. That is. I'm loving this. I might have a new favourite porter. I just for some reason it's just bringing back all these childhood memories of Christmas for me. It's following through into the flavour. There's a little bit of chocolatiness coming through on the flavour, but you do get a big hit of vanilla. And I mean, the same as Rob's saying there. We've got the bottles that we've got. The guys from Brass Castle actually gave us, but it was months ago when I met Phil and Ian to do the recording for this show. So and it is their old branding that's on it, Rob. And Rob, if you say they've not bottled it in a while.
Yeah,
This has kept really, really well in the bottle, hasn't it?
Yeah, you do get a lovely crispness of kind of like dark malt, bring a nice little bit of. It might be Christmas cake. I think you've planted that seed in my head. There's a Christmassy kind of raisin, currant, but also chocolate as well.
Yeah, it's all in there, isn't it?
Yeah, you get the porter undercase, but for me that sweetness from the vanilla really softens everything and makes it really delectable.
Yeah. Stops it being too earthy. It brings a nice amount of sweetness in.
Indeed. Rob, you were kind enough to be on our lock-in a little while ago.
I was.
But we didn't get a chance to really talk to you about what you do beer-wise. So why don't you tell us about Hopzine and what you do and all that tasty YouTube dollar you're bringing in?
Well, I had to remind myself on where we all started and stuff. I mean, because Hopzine started as a text blog in October 2009. So I mean, nearly 5 years. I think it is pretty much. Might be over 5 years now. I can't remember the actual date. So we started off as a text blog. It was all kind of like tasting notes, and then there'd be other bits and bats like reviews of like pubs and trips and festivals. We kind of went on and stuff, and then maybe about 8 months later, a friend of mine was saying, "Have you thought about kind of doing video?" Because I mean, I think I'd done a couple, and he kind of said it's a bit more like sitting across the table from you at the pub. And at the time, I'd really enjoyed the work that Zach Avery had done on YouTube. You know, Zach hasn't done stuff on YouTube for years now, but that really inspired me. And people like megastar at the Hoppery and those type of people really kind of inspired me to kind of get involved in something that I'd never thought. I mean, I'm essentially quite a shy person, but and I never thought, oh, I'll choose to buy a. Well, actually, I think at that time it was my iPhone balanced on some DVDs, and pointing at me with a couple of like bottles in front of me, kind of spouting off of what I kind of thought about. So yeah, so now I guess I'm more prominent as on YouTube than I am as on the text blogging, and like yourselves. I kind of see it more as kind of tasting notes opposed to a review. I'll give you an opinion, but I don't give you a rating or anything like that, like a lot of people do, because I think you get in trouble when you give it a rating. I mean, if you say it's a 5 out of 5, and somebody else goes, well, I think it's a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
You can't really disagree with someone saying I like it or I don't like it. So.
Yeah, the numbers don't really allow for subtleties, do they? When you say like it's 4 out of 5. But, bloody well, take the numbers away and you can get more of an honest review, I think.
Yeah, and it were at one point, I think it was chatting to Evan at Colonel, who was always kind of really sportive in kind of the first year and a half I was kind of doing it. And I thought, and Evan were like, yeah, I like you, because you don't kind of give it kind of star ratings and stuff. And I thought, well, if that's impressed Evan, I better stick to this format, because he's the kind of the Berman's Yoda of beer, so you can't kind of disagree with Evan. He's a lovely man, but yes. So I guess from there, just continue doing the YouTube stuff. I post usually 5 times a week. I completely hoard videos as well. It's a terrible habit. I could if I wanted. I could not record one for about 6 months, and I could still post 5 a week. I've got a full hard drive of video footage. I mean, as much as I hoard beer, I've become a hoarder of video beer reviews as well. Terrible.
What's in the time you've been doing it, Rob? What's been some of your absolute highlights? I mean, that might be quite difficult if you've got so many videos that you're posting, but are there maybe 2 or 3 that stand out as being really memorable for one reason or another?
Oh well, see, no, that's a funny one, because what I kind of quote people who get into doing kind of videos, because there is this nice little online community, as I'm sure you guys have experienced by doing what you do. I mean, definitely, and that's how I know Steve, because I've met him a number of times because he's a blogger, I'm a blogger. You kind of get to know each other. But that goes back to watching Zach Avery do Pliny the Elder, and he sniffs the beer and just laughs, and then he drinks it and he just laughs, and you're kind of searching for those moments where it's like this enjoyment, you just can't hide it. I mean, that moment you just go, Steve, I mean, first time you had Cannonball, I'm sure you were like, this is just everything that I hoped for has been confounded in this moment. And you're always in search of that. So as far as that goes, I do keep a few kind of as my little kind of background, so I can always reference that. So yeah, Stone and Joy by, first time I had that, Andy Parker actually brought me one back from America, so that was a real kind of poignant moment. Doing my gushing video of Dead Metaphor, which is the beer I brewed with Brewdog and Richard Taylor from the Beercast. See, that was quite an important one, but I guess some of the more memorable ones have been with other people. So stuff I've done with down at TBF with Simon from Real Ale Craft Beer. The stuff I did in San Diego with Ryan, who's also a beer tuber. That's what we call ourselves in this kind of YouTube kind of beer world. We're beer tubers supposedly, and stuff. And Peter, the Master of Hoppits, who's one of the big ones in just worldwide. Really, he's based in Denmark. We met up in London, did videos, and then quite recently when we were up at Brewdog, the video I did with Nitch after a long day of drinking at Brewdog. I think it was about 1:30 in the morning, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. But that was really fun because for me, it's all about community. It's about sharing this kind of this joint interest. So I think you always reach those memorable moments when you're sharing beer more than just drinking it in front of a camera in your basement.
Steve, what are you thinking of this beer, buddy?
I'm still loving it. The flavors are as it's warming slightly. The flavors are becoming more pronounced. For me, they're becoming a lot more richer. It's still got that underlying vanilla, which is really great actually. Because when you've had it happen in the past, you've picked up a chocolate porter or a coffee porter, and you've not got the flavors come through. And you look at this bottle, you think vanilla porter, okay, it's going to be another porter that's going to taste like a porter. But I'm really impressed with the flavors that are coming through, because it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a vanilla porter, and you get those flavors, and it's I'm loving it. I've not really got too much more to say other than that.
When's the first time you had this? Because you've had it before.
I've not had it before. This is the
Oh, have you
first
not?
time I've had it. Yeah, it was when I was chatting to the guys from Barras Castle about featuring them on the show. I literally said to them, I said, if you wanted to showcase one of your beers, which one would it be? And they put this one forward, because obviously the thing that we're limited to is doing beers in bottles, and
Yeah.
until we get the Beer O'Clock Show mobile studio set up where we can start going around and actually drinking
Oh,
cask
that'd
and
be
keg
awesome.
beers in pubs, and actually reviewing beers that aren't in bottles. That until that day, we've got to keep going with the bottles. So it's always nice to get the brewer actually recommend which of their beers they want to showcase, because it must mean that they're proud of that beer
Yeah.
as well. And as I say, I think they've done a stunning job here, because it's exactly what I want from a porter. And I'm almost devastated to hear that there's not too much of this left in bottles, because I would want a crate load of this to keep me going through the winter. It's exactly what I'm looking for in a porter.
Rob, have you had this before?
Yeah, I've had it a number of times. I mean, I remember I think one of the first outings this beer had, going back maybe 2 years ago. It might be now. I'm sure all the details will be kind of mentioned in the interview. But it was at the, I think, East Leeds beer festival, which is in just some tiny church hall. I remember that there'd been a real buzz about it, because there was talk of this brewery. It was very small, I think, at the time. One barrel. I mean, it was a guy working part time. I think he was a Coast Guard at the time. So this beer was on there. Everybody's going, "Oh, bad kitty." But then vanilla porter, for me personally, I love anything that's got vanilla in it. It's just one of those things that I like. So that was always going to appeal to me. But I remember there being quite a buzz about it around then. I personally work in York. Where are these guys are now based in Malton, which is only about a 15-minute train journey from York. And their beers are commonly found in some of your better ale pubs. More likely see their Sunshine and Cliffhanger, their more pale ales, kind of session strength cask ales. And they do a really good. I think it's a smoked stout or smoked porter called Burnout as well. But they've become kind of firm fixtures around kind of North Yorkshire.
Yeah, I've had the Sunshine and the Cliffhanger, and they're both stunning beers. I've had them on cask. You can always, as Rob said, in that sort of area, you can always be guaranteed to find one of their beers on somewhere if you look hard enough for it. And I'd say they're certainly a brewery to search out as well, because every one of their beers that I've had has been consistently good now.
How common are they to be found down this way?
No.
No?
I don't think you're going to find them down here. Yeah, I really don't. They're only doing at full tilt. They're a microbrewery, and
Okay.
Going full guns. They can only produce 130 casks a week. Now that lot above the Watford Gap are a thirsty bunch, and when they get their hands on a good beer, they don't like to let it come down too far south. So I would say, if you do see any of the Brass Castle beers around, give them a try, because they're well worth giving a go.
Yeah. Steve, do you want to give us an update on this little competition we've got running on various platforms?
Yes, indeed. So we're doing a competition with Beer 52. we're giving away 3 boxes of beer across the 3 mediums where we're active. So if you want to enter the podcast competition, you need to go onto our website, you need to find episode 86, and you need to leave a comment or a review of that show on the website to be with a chance of being entered into that draw. If you want to have a go at the Instagram competition, you need to post a beer porn picture with the hashtag cheers guys and the hashtag beer52. And if you want to have a go at the Twitter competition, there are regular tweets going out on our feed at the moment where you just click here to enter. So give one of those 3 competitions a go if you fancy it. The beers from Beer52 are certainly worth giving a go because they are a definite varied range of beers that you're going to get in those boxes.
Cool. All right, Rob, what are your further thoughts on this very interesting, very tasty beer?
Well, yeah, it's very nice. I mean, as we were saying, like when we first started, porters, stouts, what do they really mean? If you give me this blind, I'd say it were a vanilla oatmeal stout. It's got that like kind of like there's a tang that I often get from oats, and that's definitely in there. I mean, ridiculously drinkable. I mean, how strong is it with it? I don't think we even.
It's 5.5.
5.5. So you're not going to worry about drinking too much of it. That's even 5.5. Well, nowadays that's session strength by most people's standards nowadays.
That's the new session, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a big thing that I've been talking to people about. Punk IPA, for example, 5.4%. People will go and drink pints of that and not think anything of it, and then find themselves falling over quite soon after. But I mean, 'cause traditionally we're a country that drinks kind of session like 3 point something, kind of 3.2 to 4.5, and that is kind of like traditionally how we drink. So we drink volume of low ABV, but now people would go in brewed bars, pint of punk IPA. In comparison, like that's stellar strength in it, and everybody says, "Oh, that's loopy juice." So, so even at this ABV, it's massively drinkable because I guess it's not too thick. That vanilla sweetness keeps things moving along nicely, keeps you coming back. Because it's quite dry. I get this kind of dryness on my teeth. I don't know if you guys do. Kind of like maybe some residual sugar. Kind of like after you've drank a like kind of full fat Coke.
Yeah, it's kind of like a film or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very nice.
Cool. I will agree with everything you two lads said. I can't say much better than that, and I shan't try. Stevie, do we have an Instagram of the week, mate?
We do, and this week's one will be the second Instagram of the week to go into the Beer 52 grand finale that we're going to be running in a few weeks. This prize goes to Justin Mason at 1970s Boy for what he called probably the most Scottish picture he's going to take all week long, which was a picture of a Stewart Brewing Scottish beer which had the Scottish flag on the front of it, and it was taken in front of Edinburgh Castle. You're not going to get much better a picture than that on Instagram this week. So well done to Justin. He joins Sean Smith in the final of the Beer 52 Instagram competition.
And Justin's joining us next week, isn't he?
Justin is joining us next week. Yes, he's returning to the show to review a very interesting beer with us that we're going to be drinking next week.
Which is? You want to tell the boys and girls what beer
I'm sorry,
it is?
you normally do. Okay, I'll be interested actually, because I'm not sure whether Rob's tried this one or not, because I know he's been doing some of the beers from Italy beers. So we're doing Birra del Borgo Cato Reporter next week.
Oh, yes.
Is that one that you've tried?
It is. It's very nice. With is it tobacco leaves or something like that?
Yeah, it's brewed with tobacco leaves. I'm both scared and intrigued at the same time at that prospect. But we thought that would be a good one to bring Justin and his palate onto the show to see what wonderful descriptions of flavours he can pull out of that beer.
About a month ago, when I was drinking a bottle of that at home, and I think I tweeted a picture of it, and somebody was helpful enough to say, hey, you've got to be really careful how you use tobacco in beer because it's highly poisonous. That was reassuring after a while. I was just polishing off the glass.
Okay, it made me even more scared there for next week, Rob, now.
It is a beautiful beer. I'm alive. So...
Yeah,
for now.
I've not been disappointed by any of the Italian beers that we've done yet this season, so I don't plan to start now this far in.
Cool. Rob, where can people find you, mate? Online, not physically.
So I guess the website hopzine.com. I am an occasional blogger. I once upon a time, there's a load of content on there. Go and kind of scour the archives. I still do post there periodically, but so that's hopzine.com. The YouTube channel is the most active part of, I guess, my output. So YouTube /Hopzine, HOPZINE. And if you want to catch me on Untapped, I think I'm Hopzine Rob, and then most importantly, Twitter, Hopzine. Keep it all simple. You mean one address for everything, not some slightly change it. I mean, I know Max just makes things confusing for people. There's multiple personalities online.
I don't know what you mean. We're quite consistent, I like to think. You can find the website. The
Drinking
website's...
Mark.
Roku beer, Roku burgers, Roku pies. It's all over the place. We need to start doing our pie podcast, Steve. Pie of the week.
Really?
Pie
of the week. But the Pie O'Clock show.
So you didn't think drinking loads of beer partially for entertainment was a poor health decision enough?
No.
You thought
No. We need to
put pie on top of it as well.
we need to do a spin-off show around pies, and then maybe one around ice cream.
Yeah.
When is Pie O'Clock?
All the time.
I'm not sure.
There's always Pie O'Clock somewhere.
Whenever you walk past somewhere that's selling a pie that's easily accessible.
See, as a couple of fellas who frequent London, where's the best pie? I mean, I've always been interested. Where do you get a good pie in London?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever had decent pie in London. Apparently there's a place at Shepherd's Bush at one point, but that was years ago I was told about that.
Just down the road, opposite side of the road of Brewdog in Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah?
I have a mashup. I've been there. Very nice.
I'll have to check it out. I'm an Aussie pie lover, so, it'll take some... People always think, how can you have bacon and cheese in a pie? But, that's perfect pie.
That works.
That's a pasty. It's a pasty.
No. No, Rob. No. It's a pie, mate.
Can I just bring us back to beer, just for a second, just in case there's anybody still listening to this evening's show after we digress a little bit there. Before we go this evening, I just want to have a quick look forward to what we've got coming up for the rest of this season, because we've still got some cracking shows coming up that I just want to remind people of. So obviously we've got the Keto Reporter next week. That we're doing. We're then going to be reviewing the much sought after Vienna IPA by Thornbridge and Graham Nelson, the winner of the Thornbridge edition. And we've got both Graham and Rob from Thornbridge coming on that show as well. We are going to be doing the newly launched 5 Points IPA as well in a few weeks. We'll be finishing the Italian series with Nora, which is an Egyptian beer. We've then got our what's become a regular feature every season, our homebrew special coming up this season. Still don't know which beers we're drinking. The homebrewers are still brewing them as we speak. I do believe there's a Black Forest cherry stout in there,
That sounds dangerous.
which if it's anything like the one that the guy brewed last year, it's cracking, mate. I'm telling you. And then we've got our end of season special coming up with a beer that Mark still doesn't know what he's drinking, but that I packaged up for you this week, mate. So when you come to collect your beer stash from me, there's a little package in there that's all wrapped up and it's all sealed, and you're not allowed to open it until the evening of that recording. So looking forward to that one. And then we'll be taking the majority of January off, but we will be back in the middle of January for the next lock-in, but more about that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay, well, let's wrap this up. Rob, thanks very much for being part of it this week.
Yeah, cheers, Rob.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Been the highlight of my week. He stole his line! Come on!
While I was drinking as well, that was a low blow.
The Beer O'Clock Show is proud to be supported by Ales by Mail, your premier destination for bottled real ales delivered directly to your door. Visit alesbymail.co.uk and use the discount code BOCS10 for a 10% discount on their entire range. Our website is beeroclockshow.uk, Twitter @beeroclockshow, Instagram @beeroclockshow, Untapped @beeroclockshow Steve, I'm on Untapped @Roku, and on Twitter @RokuBeer. Stay tuned for the end of the show after the tinkly music for the interview with Phil and Ian from Brass Castle Brewery that Steve did with them. Until next week, mate. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been the highlight of my week. Kind of doesn't have the same impact.
Oh,
when somebody's
Stevie!
already
Oh, little man.
You wait. I'm going to get you back for that one. Next time I'm at a festival and you're recording, I'm going to be bombing around in the background of your videoing.
You didn't know last time.
Right. Until next week, Steve. See you later. Bye-bye.
It's Beer O'Clock and welcome to another episode of Behind the Beer. This week I've got with me Phil and Ian from Brass Castle Brewery. Welcome, guys.
Hello, good evening.
Who at the moment are both marvelling over the little recording app on the iPad.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
I want to know what this app is, yes.
We can talk about the app after. Welcome to the show, guys. Appreciate you giving up the time to chat to us.
Nice to be here.
This week on the show we've been drinking your Bad Kitty Vanilla Porter. Tell us about the beer. What's the story behind the beer?
It's the second beer we ever brewed. And we started on a one-barrel kit, so the second time we ever brewed our 4 casks worth, we brewed Bad Kitty. In the first place it was ever drunk, well, except for in the brew house, such as it was at the York Beer Festival, where it went on to win the champion beer, and from there it's become a bit notorious for us. It's definitely the beer for which we're identified, but it's an as thick as we can make it, as chocolatey as we can make it, vanilla porter, done as traditionally as we can do it to pack as much flavour in as possible. And like all our beers, it's unfined, so we do as much as we can to ensure as much as we can comes through in the final drink.
Okay, and tell us about the name, Bad Kitty. Where did that come from?
I think, to be honest, it's a combination of things. At the time, I had cats strolling around in the brew house. They're definitely bad kitties. But I think more importantly, it's to do with the fact that it is both a very approachable but a very potentially dangerous beer. It is strong enough to defend itself. It's a good 5.5, and it's something that's so easily drunk. I think you can perhaps very readily go a little bit too far. So there is a sting in the tail. I used to fly for the Navy, and I used to fly for a helicopter squadron that had a tiger as its background. And what we used to drink various drinks that we would refer to as pussycats, i.e. very strong but very drinkable. And Bad Kitty, we like to think, is in that mould.
Okay, and it's a vanilla porter.
Yep.
Where did the inspiration come from for doing a vanilla porter rather than just a standard porter?
Well, personally, they may disagree, but I really like the chocolatey notes that you can grind out of a porter. The welter of flavours you would ordinarily associate with a porter, a roastiness, a burnt toast flavour, a dark berry, a licorice, all the things that you often see. But for me, the chocolate is a big deal. To be honest, my wife really likes chocolate too, so it's always convenient to have her seal of approval. In this case, if you hoy in a bunch of vanilla, then yes, vanilla comes through very obviously, but it underpins the chocolate malt and the other elements that are giving you notes of chocolate in a delightful way. It's just a really, really nice combination.
Okay. And what do you think the beer says about you guys as brewers?
That's a tough one. I hope, well, for my leap in it, I hope it. What I really like about it is it has a high finishing gravity and it whaps flavour, and it is a nice, thick, you've drunk it beer. Most of our beers are of that nature.
So that's it for me. I think for me it kind of underpins the fact that what we do is try and put as much breadth of style of beer out in our portfolio as we can. And there are a number of pubs that we deliver to in our area that buy very specifically because they know they're always going to find something different, interesting, etc. And Bad Kitty is just one of those that fits within that fabulous range that we provide out to the market. So,
but it ferments down to about 10-19 complete. That is a very high gravity for 5.5, and it's partly because the inspiration is to get as much stuff into it as we possibly can. So the grain bill is way larger than an average 5.5 grain bill. The finishing gravity is, frankly, a little bit too high. We could cheat, we could cut corners, we could drop it down. You just wouldn't get that weight. It's a really good, hefty drink. And most of our beers, I hope, are of that nature. When we do our IPA, for instance, again, it's a high finishing gravity that allows us to shove up the IBUs, to whap in a load of hops to give you all that flavour. Our IPA is up at 97 to 100 IBUs. You wouldn't know it. In fact, you'd probably think it was quite sweet. But that sort of disregard for the quantity of grain that we can use just means that you get a nice hefty drink. You've had a drink.
And you've mentioned, obviously, we've spoke about the Bad Kitty, and you've mentioned the IPA. What are the other beers that feature as part of the core range of beers that you guys offer?
Core range. It's interesting that the core range is something that sort of morphs over time as the market kind of tells us what they want. At the lower ABV end, Cliffhanger, basically named after Phil's previous job after being a Navy pilot of working for the Coast Guard organisation. Cliffhanger's a 3.8% pale, packed with citrus hops, so loads of burst of citrus flavour. Cascade hops, but loads of citrus flavour out of it. Tail Gunner, 4%, bitter with a reasonable amount of rye malt, gives it a much smoother drinking experience than a normal bitter, I would say. We have a best bitter of 4.5, slightly higher ABV than you normally find for something called a best bitter. And then at the top end, Burnout, which is a 5.8% peat smoked porter, which again, as Phil says, is one of those that really just packs huge amounts of flavour and generates a huge amount of reaction wherever it goes from people drinking it. Again, a multi-award winner.
Okay. And it sounds like you've had quite a background before you came into brewing, Phil. Why the decision to start brewing, and what was the history of starting Brass Castle as a brewery?
Well, for me, I was a home brewer, like so many people who come at brewing. It had lapsed, though, to be perfectly honest, and there's not much home brewing you can do on a ship. Although people do find interesting ways to make sort of stills, etc. on board. But I left the Navy and I went to work at the UN for the Foreign Office. And while I was in New York, I was just overwhelmed, basically blown away by the beer scene and the home brewing scene, and took it up again in my apartment. So my poor wife had to deal with exploding this and smelly that around the apartment. And then one day I was talking to an American colleague at the Security Council, and he basically said that his brother owned a brewery, and if I was serious, I ought to go and check out a commercial brewery, which is what I did. So I basically dog's-bodied and got under the feet of the head brewer at Triumph Brewing Company in Princeton, which is a marvellous, it's a 10-barrel microbrewery, but it's actually a brew pub, which is just a fantastic place to get an idea of how to brew commercially, because in a brew pub environment, we were able to ripple through multiple different types of beer. I mean, we had no core range, the whole thing was completely fluid. Plus, you get almost instant reaction across the bar. So it was fabulous to be able to sort of finish brewing, wander down and see what people were thinking of the stuff we'd made. And after that, I was sold. So it was back to the UK to work, basically to adjust myself to brew cask beer rather than the sort of keg stuff we've been doing in America, and the rest is history. We started on a one-barrel brew house in Pocklington, down the road from where we currently are in Malton, and that's when I met Ian.
Okay, and Ian, your background in brewing?
Other than loving the stuff more than my waistline should admit to, it's pure happen chance with Phil. I had a 30-year history in global IT, in financial markets, absolutely nothing to do with the brewing industry, but found myself almost semi-retired, and Phil and I just happened to meet at that York Camera Beer Festival 2 years ago. We found ourselves fairly quickly after that having access to a magnificent old copper-based brew house on Lord Halifax's estate. We understand it's the only unlicensed brew house in the country now, and it's a type of brew house that requires two people to physically man it. And so Phil asked me if I would care to come along and start, and again, to use his phrase before, the rest is history. So we built the name, we built the profile of the company, and the marketplace visibility, the brand over the next year and a half, until a point in the middle of last year when we decided finally to take the plunge and put the money in and put the permanent brewery together in Malton. We've now got a 12-barrel brewery, 15-barrel mash, so we can still brew high quantities of the higher ABV beers, and everything is running well.
Okay, let's just talk about the branding for a second. Brass Castle.
Easy peasy. Brass Castle began on Brass Castle Hill, so that was straightforward. Because, I had picked up from the States this route into brewing, which was very common there, and it was essentially for the home brewer to set up a nano brewery and then to try and find an outlet locally into which they could at least trial the thing, if not ideally sell it. So that was the MO when we kicked off. And happily, my house had a cellar and a garage and a connection between the two. So I could brew in the garage on Brass Castle Hill, and I could drop it down to the cellar thereafter. Brass Castle Hill, Brass Castle Brewery.
Okay, and I'm fascinated by the logo as well. It's an ambigram.
Hey, nice one.
Isn't it? Yeah, I've read the Dan Brown books. Where did the inspiration come from for that? Because it is some incredible branding you've got.
It was this kind of thing, to be honest. We're sitting across the table from one another in a pub, and we were looking at beer mats and just thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you could see the same thing on a beer mat as I could see on a beer mat that was between us? And ordinarily that's only achieved by turning the thing around or having one each. In this case, you can share a beer mat because we can both see the same thing. And that's what it was. So it was the element of conversation, it was where your beer was going to be drunk, it was that side of things. And it best summed up in that two-way conversational beer mat.
And so sorry, but as your listeners now go onto our website and go and say, what is this ambigram and what does it look like? The interesting thing for people to figure out is how, given Brass has 5 letters and Castle has 6 letters, how that works.
Okay,
pure magic.
There's maybe a challenge for our listeners is check out the Brass Castle website. There'll be a link to it in the show notes, and have a look at that, and maybe tweet us your thoughts on that one, and we'll share them with the guys here. So really one final question from me in terms of where you've both come as brewers and where you are now. What's the one piece of advice that you'd give to any aspiring brewers out there?
I think these days, I would say Phil and I, by fortune to a certain extent, but we were able, on a part-time basis, without being concerned about financial viability, we're able to build a brand and a recognition in the marketplace and get the beers settled and well known before we then decided we knew enough about the market to go and put the investment in. People today coming and saying, oh, well, I'm going to go and find £60,000, and put a 5-barrel brewery together and off I'm up and running. Be very, very careful. With a number of breweries in the country now, it's very, very hard to get hold and get recognition, to get commercial viability, if that's really what you're looking for. The part-time basis, the experience that Phil had in the US market, I think has served us extremely well.
The home brewing background as well. I mean, we meet people all the time who sort of say, oh, well, I finished this job, I now fancy brewing, and really, I've got to admit, I find it hard to connect with some of the individuals that we meet who are setting up breweries because they're doing it from an entirely commercial perspective. I don't think, particularly allied to what Ian's just said about the rigours of the market, I don't think that's sustainable. Because if you're not interested in it, you're going to really struggle. It's hard work. Now, we're extremely lucky because we're basically still playing. And we still have given ourselves, even now, we had the room when we were part-time to play, and we've given ourselves the room now to play. So yes, we have core beers, and we have a range of non-core beers, which are quite fun, and we have a range of things that, probably occasionally stay in the brew house because they're a bit off the wall. But it's that sort of home brewer spirit, it's that passion for the product and the desire to just throw the odd fun thing around. It keeps us all interested, it's what takes me to work in the morning. The idea that there's such a wealth of possibilities in respect of beer, and what really caused me some concern when I see people entering the market who haven't, I don't know, either don't have that passion for it, or frankly don't see ahead of them a large amount of quite hard work.
And other than your own beers, what's your go-to beer? I know brewers hate this question.
This is going to go on a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tough, right? It changes by the moment. Well, I can't identify. I mean, this is terrible. I can't identify a go-to beer. There are go-to breweries. There are breweries of whom I would say I don't care what it is and know it's going to be good. Do you want me to identify those?
You can. I'll make it easier for you. You can name your top 3.
That's even harder.
Local environment. So let's keep it local because this is where we most often drink. So if there's a go-to beer, it's something I'm going to have locally. I would say I'm never disappointed and always pleased to find on the bar something from Brown Cow Brewery in Selby. I think Sue is consistently excellent. Something from Bad Seed Brewery in Malton, always flavour packed. Or, again, they're on the right side of brewing. They're doing it for fun and they're shoving out big flavours. Great. Ooh, a third one. Tough. I'm going to let Ian go in.
But recent startups, very small ones. You'd only ever see them within York and a few miles outside. But there's a couple started up Half Moon Brewery. Again, I've not had a bad, they're all solid, very tasteable, very drinkable beers.
I've got my third.
Okay.
It's too easy. As soon as you think about it, it's too easy. Stuart Nielsen at the North Riding Brew Pub. Yeah. Stuart is, and you should get him on your programme. The North Riding Brew Pub is an absolute revolution. Stuart has a 2.5 barrel plant in the bottom of a pub in Scarborough, and it is, outwardly and indeed inwardly, a working man's pub. It is a pub into which you would walk and just think this place is going to be John Smith's and nothing else. And no, I mean, it's just astonishing. There are people there who really should be. They look like they should be drinking John Smith's, and they're drinking stuff from Colonel, stuff from Camden, stuff from his own fair hand. And Stuart brews astonishingly interesting beers, and he has a he has a real delight in playing with hops. And he always brews a different beer. And he whacks as much hops as he possibly can in there. And then he goes away and does a stupidly caffeinated coffee porter. He's got it's the same ethos, which is so marvellous. He's got a very small kit, he's got an immediate clientele, and he's completely converted a bunch of drinkers who, would, I think, merrily have drunk, forgive me, but I'm going to say it again, John Smith's for the rest of their lives. Stuart Nielsen, North Riding Brew Club, yeah, he's a good one.
Yep.
Okay, guys, just to finish on then, where can people find more information about Brass Castle?
Brass Castle, you can find us on our website, it's brasscastlebrewery.co.uk. Follow us on Twitter at Brass Castle Beer. We're on Facebook, and physically, you can please come and visit us. We are in the right in the centre of Malton. We are highly visitable. We have our own brewery tap. We have our own excellent bottle store full of beers from all over Yorkshire. So please come and drop in sometime next time you're in the area.
Can people buy the beers online?
You can buy the beers online, and you find a link on the website to where you can buy them online.
Okay, well, listen, guys, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you chatting to us this evening.
Pleasure.
And if people do want to keep in touch with what you're doing, as you say, just follow you on Twitter at Brass Castle. We'll put the links in the show notes so people can go direct to you. But thank you ever so much.
No worries.